everybody, and welcome to this webinar. In today's topic we will discuss V-Ray Next and its latest updates for 3ds Max. I'm Kalina and I'm happy to meet you here and to this webinar. Basically, our agenda for today is what is V-Ray Next, what is the V-Ray Next workflow, and basically how you can take most advantage of this beautiful software. And what are the features included in the latest updates, update 1 and update 2. Then of course we'll talk a little bit about how you can optimize your workflow, how actually faster and easier it is. Then in this webinar we'll focus on CPU tips and tricks and on GPU tips and tricks. Something I want to make very clear is that with the latest release of V-Ray, the V-Ray Next line with update 1 and update 2, it's easier than ever to pick if you want to render CPU or if you want to render GPU. Both support interactive rendering and production rendering. My only suggestion is after you pick one, please stay on it for the whole project. So from the beginning, if you decide to go CPU, please go CPU. And if you decide to go GPU, please do that for the whole project. Because if you switch in the middle, it's normal for some differences to occur. It's like switching the render engine. So when using V-Ray now, please just in the beginning pick are you going to render CPU or GPU and then continue. After the webinar is finished, if you have some questions, we will leave some time for those. But besides that, let's start. Before we do that, I want to introduce you to AECO Space. AECO Space is the official distributor of every V-Ray for Eastern Europe, and we are also an official V-Ray training center. So you can come and visit us at www.aeco.space or in our office here in Sofia, Bulgaria. If you are interested in learning 3D software and becoming better in what you do in courses, in trainings, not only web but also in-house, or of course if you're interested in purchasing any of the V-Ray software, please come find us at AECO.space. Besides that, let's get your interest for V-Ray going. Over the years, V-Ray has become an industry standard when it comes to architectural rendering, both exterior and interior. One of the many reasons for that is that V-Ray is always developing. When it comes to its development, it's always listening to you, to the clients, to the users, to people who actually voice their opinion and say, hey, I want that, this would make my life better, this would make my work better. That's why V-Ray is constantly updating. So in previous versions there used to be service packs, now they're called updates with the next line, but the idea is the same. Each new update is not just a small bug fix here or there, it's a set of completely new features. And very often those features are result of customer demand, result of your wantings and desires. All of this makes V-Ray very flexible because it's used not only in architecture but also in VFX, in product design and automotive. And all of those clients from all of those interesting in different industries have an opinion and have needs. So by satisfying those needs, V-Ray actually becomes really powerful because it's taking the best from architecture and offering it to VFX, and the same backwards, taking the best from VFX and offering it to architecture. This makes it even more powerful to visualize your ideas, which in the end of the day are the most important thing. Another thing that makes V-Ray very useful render engine is the cross-platform approach, because there is V-Ray for Max, V-Ray for Maya, V-Ray for SketchUp, V-Ray for Revit, and so on and so on. Using V-Ray actually makes your assets much easily transferable. So just by using the same render engine, you can, for example, send proxies from SketchUp to Max, send V-Ray scenes from Max to Maya, and so on and so on. Which is a great way, especially if you work in a mixed pipeline with other people or on bigger projects. From then on, you can see that some of the top studios in the world use V-Ray, and I've gathered here a few examples of their work. This is Uniform, again Uniform, a beautiful airport by Flying Architecture, all of this rendered in V-Ray. Those are just a few examples. Of course, you can gather more on the internet. It's full of images. Go get inspired and of course show us your images. And if you haven't tried V-Ray yet, you can always go to www.chaosgroup.com and download a free 30-day trial for V-Ray. It's absolutely free and full functioning, no limitations when it comes to the trial. Of course, if you want to purchase it and get a copy on your own, you can always contact us as well. Besides that, the V-Ray Next offers a clear selection between CPU and GPU rendering, as I said. In the beginning, when you assign V-Ray as your render engine in 3ds Max, you're able to pick if you want to go V-Ray Next, which CPU, or V-Ray GPU Next. Both come with major speed optimizations and adaptive optimizations, where V-Ray is learning about your scene and taking advantage of that knowledge. This makes the workflow faster and easier. A great example of the adaptive optimizations was the adaptive lights, which was introduced in the V-Ray 3.4 or 5, not sure. Sorry. Now we also have the adaptive dome light and some smart optimizations like automatic exposure and automatic camera white balance. All of this makes V-Ray actually in a way adjust your scene to provide you the best results for your specific rendering. It's easier than ever, which you'll notice, because nowadays you don't need to know a lot of settings, you don't need to know what everything does, you just need to have a great idea, execute it in a well way, and then press render, of course. Then, if we go more in depth, V-Ray Next as a release was up to 25% faster, had the adaptive dome light and the auto exposure and white balance, which you mentioned. There is also the possibility to use the NVIDIA AI denoiser, another type of denoising, as the name suggests, developed by NVIDIA, but now implemented in V-Ray. And don't be fooled by the name, the NVIDIA AI denoiser works as a post effect also on CPU rendering, so it's not only for GPU. But when it comes to GPU, we also have a few very nice features there, like faster fog, faster volumetric rendering, V-Ray scan support, making the GPU more powerful than ever if this is your line of work. V-Ray Next also came with the new hair shader, which is melanin based for very realistic hair with just inserting one value. Then there was a great example of customer demanded feature, which was the denoiser per render element, and the lighting analysis render element, allowing you to get direct illumination information for your scene in real world values, super useful for architects building the space afterwards. For those of you who use software like Substance Design and Substance Painter, now V-Ray supports the PBS workflow, where you can insert metalness and roughness textures easily directly from the export from Substance Painter, for example. And another very big optimization in the V-Ray Next pipeline, and this is not only in Max, this is actually in every new V-Ray, I think, is the V-Ray Cloud. One-click cloud rendering straight from the interface of your DCC. Basically taking advantage of a huge rendering farm up in the cloud with a credit-based system, making scaling super easy. So if you have a big project coming and you don't have the possibility to upgrade machines or invest in new hardware, you can just render on the cloud. Another great thing, which I'll show you today, is how actually we can send our image to the cloud. It will render there and our computer will be free to render here. I'll show you the cloud today. So this is just a quick introduction, and actually we will upload in real time, render on the cloud while we speak, so you can see how easy and fast it is. Those Those were the very next updates, but after very next there came very next update 1 and update 2. A lot of new features were part of those updates, as you can see here, and I won't go over each and every one. I'll just basically show you some that I think are interesting, some that I think you might find useful, fun to work with, and look at a different perspective on the latest updates in V-Ray. So today I'll show you the tone shader, I'll show you the debug shading, we'll talk about GPU bucket rendering, but be sure to go and check the other new features as well. Some of them are also amazing. Let's go in Max and see directly what I'm speaking of. Okay, now let's see. Here we are. I'll use this provided by Chaosgroup exterior for showing you some of the latest features in V-Ray next. When I render, you'll notice that it does not look like a typical photorealistic exterior, yet it's being rendered. This is because of the use of a new material in V-Ray called V-Ray Toon. The Toon material is widely used in animation, especially in Japanese styles like anime, but actually it can provide, as you see here, a very interesting approach to architectural rendering where it looks more artistic, more like a sketch. Besides the fact that it's looking like a sketch, it's also physically based. So it's still working with reflections, with illumination, and in order to show you that, for example, you can see here that we have this yellow reflection. This is controlled by the reflection color, of course. So if I change this color of the material, we see the reflection changing also. All of the shadows, all of the vision of this material is corrected procedurally. There are just a few bitmap textures creating the splashes-like effect, and this is the beauty of the Toon shader. It basically allows you to create interesting interactive images without a lot of post-production, but in a very artistic way. You can see this one works fully interactive, so let's unlock the camera, okay, and go into perspective mode so we can move around. You can see a very interesting approach to exterior architectural visualization here using the V-Ray Toon shader. Again, the scene is illuminated by the sun and sky system of V-Ray, so there is nothing specific in there, just the beautiful effects of the Toon shader. When it comes to interactive rendering, there are a few additional very interesting optimizations in V-Ray, one of them being the debug shading. This debug shading is situated here on top of the V-Ray frame buffer. And this new icon allows you to take advantage of it. If you hold, you'll see a few additional options. Let's explore those. The first one is Isolate Selected, and it basically giving me an interactive mask, render mask I can work with. Just by clicking on an object, you see that V-Ray is rendering only this object, allowing me to focus on this and not waste time rendering the additional things in the scene. And of course it is realistic, so it's actually doing a mask, it's giving us the proper illumination. Okay. If you want to lock the selection and just work on this object, you can use the second icon, which is locked, and then whatever I select, I'll see only what I have locked. And if I turn it off, we see everything. Another part of the debug shading that you'll find on top of the V-Ray frame buffer are a few debug render elements, let's call them, or donut added like render elements. Here you can find information about lighting, for example, ambient occlusion, and all this without adding additional passes, without adding additional rendering, just from the frame buffer itself. We have a few additional wireframe, normals, barycentric coordinates, UVs. You pretty much get the idea of what is going on in here. This scene even ends up looking like a very artistic and modern art visualization, although it's a debug element. Okay. So this is something quite nice about V-Ray Next Update 2. I mentioned that we can take advantage of the really powerful V-Ray code straight from Max. In order to do so, what we need to do when we are happy with our image is basically set the render settings to what we want them to be, and be very careful, because once you export to the cloud, those are the render settings the cloud will use. You will not be able to change them after. So know that when you export for the cloud, make sure to have the high-end settings you want here. Okay, I'm doing something medium just in order to show you how the cloud works. And then we can press the cloud button. You can send the resolution from here, or we'll have the possibility to change the resolution when uploading to the cloud. So I just press the cloud button. I have the option to preview, see what I'm rendering, see what the cloud will render, just to be sure that everything will be the same, that I won't send something wrong or something different to the cloud. This is rendering on my machine now. Okay, I won't wait for this one to render, just stop it. You basically get the idea that this is for checking if this is the right thing to render. Then we can just need to click submit. It automatically opens the cloud window where it's asking me for a resolution that I want to use, folder, super easy organization, and then I click submit. Every time you upload the scene, it will be faster upload, because it's not uploading the whole scene, it's uploading just what has changed. So your first upload may be slower, but then if you upload again the same scene, it will be much faster. Okay, and now the cloud is rendering our scene. You can see it started, there are few credits, and I can manage my projects from cloud itself. Let's leave it to render and check a few additional features of V-Ray Next while this is still rendering. Going back into Max, I mentioned that we'll explore a few GPU settings, but those have in mind are really great, work well on CPU as well, so just I'll show them on GPU for those of you who use this. You'll notice that in this scene I have environment fog, which is a great approach of creating God rays type of an illumination inside in interiors. And as you also know, the environment fog is widely used in exterior rendering, so here we're a bit of mixing between both. Another thing that we're going to do in this scene is use V-Ray GPU, you can see from here. Then we have two render elements added, the V-Ray Cryptomate and the V-Ray Denoiser. I'll set the V-Ray Denoiser to an NVIDIA iDenoiser just to show you how the NVIDIA one works. And then from V-Ray we have Bucket Sampler, although even we are on GPU. Let's click render. So I'll have this rendering here, and the cloud, the cloud has finished with our initial render. So from here you can see our cloud rendered result. You can download it directly to your computer or manage it online in the cloud portal. Cloud is credits based. So basically this image took us 0.11 credits. If you wanna know more about credits, go check online. You can contact us, but the idea is that you get a set of credits and from those you can just render on the cloud. While we are speaking, the GPU is rendering here, and there are a few things I want to mention when the GPU is rendering in buckets. First of all, bucket rendering on the GPU. Not only does this allows us to scale easily, but it also allows us to render elements such as CryptoMate, which those of you familiar or working with Foundry's Nuke know, and it's basically automatic IDs for every element in your scene being generated just by adding the CryptoMate. So we are doing a CryptoMate render element on the GPU with buckets. You will also notice when we finish the render that there would be another pass, which would be the NVIDIA AI denoiser. V-Ray now has two denoisers, one the initial V-Ray and another the NVIDIA one. In my personal opinion, the NVIDIA one works better during look development, during early stages of your scene, while the V-Ray denoiser is much more detailed for final production work. But you can use whichever one, whatever you like, in your own pipeline. Just know that still, for the denoiser to work well, you need to have at least decent rendering quality. Nobody's asking you to become the best, but decent rendering quality for the denoiser to provide good results. Okay, let's just wait for a few more buckets. It's a familiar feeling, I know, but I just want to show you how everything works live without pre-recording. The CryptoMate, we can see even at this point creating automatic IDs for everything. And we have our finished render. This is the beauty pass, this is the RGB pass, and we also have the effects result, which is using NVIDIA's AI denoiser. You can see how much clearer this one is and how finished the image actually looks thanks to this denoiser effect, and the whole thing took us less than 3 minutes for this quality, which I think is pretty impressive considering the fact that we also have environment fog creating this beautiful God rays type of an effect. All in all, you'll find quite a few new features in V-Ray. And the great thing is it's always optimizing and always giving you more. So now is a great time to switch your game to the next level, as I like to joke. It's easier and faster than ever, and you can explore the magic as any way you like, because in the end of the day, that's the most important thing. The idea behind your image, what you want to share with the world, and how you want to make the world a better place. So check out V-Ray next. Check out cloud rendering. I strongly encourage you to do so. You can go to Chaosgroup TV, which is Chaosgroup's YouTube page, where you can check a few more videos, explore a few additional features, and see what in V-Ray grabs your heart. And you can also please go to our webpage, which is AECO Space YouTube, and click subscribe. We post webinars there, we post promotional videos, we post learning tutorials, so go and subscribe to our webpage. Then, if you have any additional questions about V-Ray or about our courses, trainings, or even purchasing this beautiful software, you can find us on all social media. Of course, you can always go also to our webpage, AECO.space, for everything you need. And I want to say a big thank you. Hope you enjoyed this and have fun rendering create beautiful results, and share them with the world. Thank you very much.